Okay, so today we're jumping back in time, way back to the 16th century, right into the heart of the West African savannah. Why? Because we're going to uncover the incredible story of one of history's most powerful leaders, a warrior, a builder, and a queen named Amina.
And it all kicks off with this single powerful sentence, supposedly spoken by a young girl as she looked out over her city. Now you have to understand, this wasn't just some idle childhood dream. Nope, this was a promise of a life that was absolutely not going to be boxed in by tradition or anyone else's expectations.
So I want you to picture it, a vibrant, bustling hub of trade and culture. You've got dust kicking up from the roads as caravans loaded with salt and cloth roll in. The air is just buzzing with the sounds of the market, the beat of drums. This is the world that shaped Amina, and it's the kingdom she would one day fight to protect and, well, make even bigger.
So how in the world does a young girl watching the roads from a city wall become a legend? Well, her story starts with a royal upbringing that was, let's just say, anything but ordinary.
Now, to really get what Amina was up against, you have to understand her world. The Hausa lands back then were kind of like a giant chessboard, a patchwork of powerful, independent city-states. They were rivals one day, allies the next, always shifting the balance of power. For any ruler, just surviving meant you had to be smart, strong, and always ready for a fight.
Amina was born a princess, for sure, but her childhood was totally different. Her grandfather, the king, saw something more in her. He saw a leader, so he brought her into his court, teaching her everything about statecraft and judgment. And there's this great story where he let her hold a warrior's dagger, and right there, he saw that spark of a true fighter in her eyes.
And that spark? Well, it was about to become a full-blown fire. As a teenager, Amina chose a path that completely shattered convention. She basically traded the comfortable palace for the dusty, sweaty training grounds.
You know, her path to power was so deliberate. While she kept up with her political studies, she did something truly radical. She insisted on training with the cavalry. We're talking mastering the horse, the spear, the whole deal. By the time she was 16, her skill was so obvious that she was named Magajia, the heir apparent. She even turned down marriage proposals, declaring her one true duty was to her kingdom, Zazzau.
And get this, long before she was even queen, her reputation was already being sung in the streets. While riding into battle alongside her brother, the king, she inspired praise songs just like this one. People already saw her, not just as some princess, but as a real commander.
But all that respect, it was about to face the ultimate test. Because when her brother died, Zazzau was suddenly left exposed, and that moment of crisis forced Amina to make her move. I mean, can you just feel the tension in that royal court? The kingdom's enemies are watching, just waiting for any sign of weakness. The council of chiefs is probably arguing back and forth. The entire future of Zazzau is hanging by a thread, and it all comes down to one question. Who is strong enough to hold this all together?
Right into that chaos, Amina walks into the council hall and lays her claim. There's no hesitation. She doesn't ask for a permission. She just presents her qualifications. She'd studied politics, she'd led warriors into battle, and she knew exactly what the kingdom needed to survive.
Honestly, how could they argue? Her case was undeniable. Her experience was proven. The council made this incredibly bold choice and named her Sarunia, Queen of Zazzau. A woman had just taken command in a world run by men, and she did it based purely on her own capability. And believe me, she wasted zero time. Her very first command sent a crystal-clear message to both her people and her enemies. Zazzau is not in mourning, it is preparing for war. The time for talking was over, the time for action had just begun.
But Amina's reign wasn't just about winning battles. Not at all. It was about building a kingdom from the ground up. Her vision was all about security and prosperity for every single one of her people.
And to enforce that vision, she had some serious military muscle. Her army was a force to be reckoned with, led by an elite cavalry of 1,000 riders. And who was in charge? A queen who had trained right alongside them and personally led every single campaign. But you know, Amina's most lasting legacy wasn't actually forged in battle. She knew that military victories could be temporary, but security? That was everything. So she started this massive project to build fortified earthen walls around all her key towns. They became legendary, known as Garnuar Amina, Amina's walls.
And the effect?
It was almost immediate. With protected cities and safer trade routes, Zazzau just blossomed. Commerce exploded. Tradition even says she's the one who introduced the super valuable kola nut to the area. And all this new wealth wasn't just stashed away, it was poured right back into the kingdom's security and the well-being of her people.
And her commitment was just astonishing. For over 3 decades, 34 years, Amina was on campaign expanding her kingdom's influence and locking down its safety. I mean, this wasn't just some short-term goal for her. It was literally her life's work.
So after a whole lifetime of ruling and fighting, how is Queen Amina remembered? Well, this is where her story really begins to shift, where the lines between verifiable history and enduring legend start to get a little blurry.
Her legacy really starts with the incredible loyalty she inspired. Her soldiers respected her, yeah, but it was more than that. They respected her not because of her title, but because she was one of them. She shared their food, their hardships, their risks. This was not a queen commanding from some faraway throne. This was a leader on the front lines.
And this, right here, is how a historical figure becomes a legend. The hard facts tell us about a brilliant 16th century commander who grew her territory. But the legend tells a much bigger story. It's one that's immortalized in epic songs, symbolized by the sheer strength of Amina's walls. And today, she's celebrated as a global icon of female leadership.
And her story is so alive today. Her city of Zazzau is now Zaria, in Nigeria. You can find statues honoring her on horseback. You can find schools and roads named after her. Her story just continues to inspire people all over the world. She's a powerful reminder that true leadership is defined by courage and skill, not by gender. You know, in the end, Amina's story isn't really just about the past. It's a question for every single one of us. It kind of forces us to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, when we're faced with a big challenge, when our community is at risk, what kind of strength can we find in ourselves to step up and lead?